We're 10 weeks away from the National, and that means it's last call to scoop the football cards that are sure to be hot in Cleveland. I'm covering all the top quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers in the league, and lasering in on the ones that the hype beast is pumping. Let's feed the beast and make some money. Let's data dive. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Data Dive powered by Market Movers. My name is Tyler Nethercott, better known as Teapot, and this week I am back to talk football. It's been a minute since I went back to the gridiron, since baseball and basketball have been hot in the sports world in recent months. But if you've ever been to the National, you know that football cards are always among the hottest because of the timing relative to the start of the season, which happens about 5 weeks after the National. So we're going to look at all of the top-rated quarterbacks and positional players in the league to see which ones might be hot at the National, which ones might have upside, and which ones you need to sell right now. As always, this video is brought to you by Market Movers, and guys and gals, we have our free monthly member live stream with packs and cards given away next Tuesday night. If you visit marketmoversapp.com and you use promo code DIVE when you check out, you'll get 14 days completely free to try out Market Movers. That way you can join Jeff and I next week and join in on the fun. And if you like it, you'll also get 20% off for life as long as you're subscribed. So what are you waiting for? Go sign up and then come back and we'll get into the data. All right, so this will be a fun one. I'm gonna go through a spreadsheet that I've put together with some pricing and some stoplight coloring, and then we'll get into some Market Movers charts to round it out. So I'm gonna start out with quarterbacks here. And what I did was I pulled the fantasy rankings from Yahoo's site. They had all their fantasy quote-unquote experts who don't agree on anything seemingly, and they ranked them all. And so what I did is I just stuck with that order, and we'll look at that through the lens and context of cards. And I want to look at two things. One, the National. From now until the National and going into the National, who do I think has upside? Who do I think is going to be hot, basically, at the National? And then I'll look kind of in season, not before the season, but sort of treat this as the National up to the season, I guess you could, and then in-season players. And what you'll see as we go through this is that I'm pretty reluctant to put a green light. I don't even know if I put it on any players for the season. Why? Because NFL frankly, it's unpredictable. You got injuries, you got teams that don't play well. The teams need to win. The players need to shine. There needs to be a lot of things that go correctly during the season for a player's prices to go up. So at best, in most cases, if not all of them, I'll have a yellow, and we'll talk through the context. So let's just get right into it. Josh Allen, where are his weapons? He lost Diggs, he lost Gabe Davis. I don't know who's going to show up. Yes, they drafted the rookie. Was it Coleman or somebody? I don't know. I don't know if he'll have anybody to throw to. Josh Allen's style does seem to lend him to being able to, create time. With time comes, receivers and tight ends who are open. He does have Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, so good tight end, pretty good tight end combination. The running game improved last year, but he's a guy who's big. He's mobile. He can create on his own. Yes, he turns the ball over. They're still projecting him, in spite of not having Diggs, to be the number one overall quarterback option going in for fantasy next year. And I personally would say pump the brakes right now on Josh Allen. Red light for the National, red light going into the season. I don't know what's going to happen, and I feel like if the Bills don't win soon, if they keep being, always the bridesmaid, never the bride, always losing to the Chiefs in the playoffs, whether it's a coin flip or the refs or whatever reason it might be, just Patrick Mahomes being incredibly good. They haven't been able to get over the hump, and Josh Allen's been really high in price for a long time. I think his prices could start coming down significantly. Now, I put the PSA 10 Optic Holo prices on here for reference. Why did I choose Optic Holos? One, because they're pretty consistent from 2016 up until now in terms of, every player having an Optic Holo. The print runs can still be obviously drastically different for the older ones compared to the newer ones. But we can't do something like Prism Silver because 2017, for example, only Prism Silvers, no Prism base cards for the rookies. 2018, we have Lamar Jackson, we have Baker Mayfield, we have Sam Darnold, others, and there's very, very few of those. There's very few of the Prism Silvers at PSA, like sub 50 pop counts on those PSA 10s. So those aren't a good comparison. So I went with the Optic Holos in this case. Liquid enough to track the prices, and we'll kind of go through these. But just keep in mind, I don't know that I'll always touch on the prices because we're going to look at charts. Some of these might be affected by pop count in addition to other things. So Jalen Hurts, He just crashed down last year. He absolutely crashed down in price. He was a guy, Jeff and I both, many people were high on him. Hurts was very hot at the National last year as well as the year before, frankly. I thought he was a guy that was going to be really good. I thought Philly was going to be really good. They started out the season hot, and then they lost like all but one game after week 10 or something. They just completely went down the tubes. Hurts, I would say, red light going into the National. I'm just not hearing any more buzz around him. People are really questioning whether or not that one season was kind of a fluke with the Super Bowl run or not. Yellow light for the season, and I say that because it's still a team that's loaded with talent. He's got Devontae Smith. He's got A.J. Brown. He's got Saquon Barkley now. He's got weapons around him, and their defense should be relatively good. So if the Eagles do win, if they kind of take over that division, if they make a run, maybe people will get interested in Hurts again. Yellow light on him. Lamar Jackson coming off of his second MVP season. Yellow. I think there'll be some buzz. I think people are really excited about him. I think his prices had come down significantly enough over the last few years that people might go, you know what? I really like the Ravens this year. They're sort of, I think, third in Vegas odds to win the Super Bowl. So, people are high on Lamar Jackson. Maybe he'll do that. And he's got Derrick Henry now there. That'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. Mahomes, I'm just going to say yellow. At this point, there are so many people who don't like Patrick Mahomes. And then there are a lot of people who really, really like Patrick Mahomes. He's pretty much divided his fan base into those two camps pretty squarely. You're either pro Chiefs or that's like, I'm rooting against them because they keep on winning and seemingly get all the calls in their favor and whatever. I think Mahomes could have some buzz around him. I'm going to watch his prices from now until the season, kind of see what happens during the season. It's hard for me to imagine his card prices going up unless he has a season like he did back in 2018, his first season when he had 50 plus touchdowns and he just absolutely lights the league on fire. If he gets back to that form, he might get some traction. If he gets into the playoffs again and they're the favorites, I'd expect some momentum around his cards. Maybe finally people just start looking at him and go, you know what? He really is the next guy up. But for now, yellow caution light with him. CJ Stroud is going to be very hot at the National. He's already very hot. He was hot last year. Going into the National into the season, green light. I would say, scoop if you can, get good deals on cards and look to move them at the National or, going into the season. Red light during the season for me. And I really like CJ Stroud, but I never lock in too much to a rookie who has one good season. Never. Baker Mayfield had a good rookie season. There are many players who have had good rookie years, and then they don't play well. And then they just come out, they have a sophomore slump, something happens with the team. It shouldn't happen with Stroud. They brought in Joe Mixon. Can he actually still run the ball? He's obviously got Nico Collins, he's got Tank Dell, he's got Diggs now, so he's got wide receiving weapons for days. It should be good. But personally for me, the reason I'm going green-red is because I would say confidently sell before the season. Don't take the risk. And then, kind of watch the season and see what happens. And maybe he solidifies himself as one of the top-tier quarterbacks after another strong year. Anthony Richardson is already hot. People are really, I just keep hearing people say Anthony Richardson. He had all this hype behind him last year, and then he got hurt after playing, early on, playing pretty well. So I would say Anthony Richardson going to the National, yes. Red light for the season, same thing with Stroud. Haven't seen enough. No idea how this guy can actually play or if he can stay healthy. I would sell before the season. Joe Burrow is unlike any other player in terms of hype. He always has hype behind him. Even when he's injured for the 50th time, Joe Burrow has hype. Everybody's, but when Burrow comes back, Joe Burrow, Joe Cool, he's so cool. The young kids love Joe Burrow. He's their favorite athlete universally. All I ever hear is people, kids 16 and under talking about Joe Burrow. His prices are still pretty high, $393 for his Optic Hollow. Green light going into the National, yellow light for the season. The guy's got all the talent in the world. We know that. He's got weapons, but I don't know. I don't know if the health is there. There's concerns about his hand and the throwing motion and whether or not he fully recovered. We'll see. Kyler Murray, to me, yes, he got a new toy in Marvin Harrison Jr., but red light. I just don't think anybody's really interested in Kyler Murray anymore. I think that ship has sailed. $165. If I'm holding that card, I'm selling it. I'm selling it right now, and I'm putting it into something else. Put it into CJ Stroud. Put it into something else. Any of these other guys that are green light going into the National, sell your Kylers. Dak, I don't think anybody's excited about Dak going into playoffs. I think most people are really souring on Dak Prescott, and you can see that because he's at $120 on his Optic Hollow, and look at the prices on all these other guys. Maybe a yellow light during the season. if he actually plays really well, right? But I that was like orange. I honestly should have done orange. I tried to keep this simple. I'm not particularly high on Dak this year. Jordan Love. Look, Jordan Love played well the second half of the season last year. Jordan Love played well in the playoffs. People are obsessed with him now. They love Jordan Love, as you saw in the thumbnail. But for me, I'm still not convinced. I am not convinced. I'm not convinced. I think there's something kind of here with the Packers effect, and people are like, well, it's obvious he's the next guy up. You know, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and of course they're going to have another really good quarterback that they made sit for a little bit and, you know, drafted late and whatever. I'm not so sure. So yellow light during the season, I think that's going to be actually a fairly competitive division this year. Obviously, I'm rooting for my Lions. I think they're favorites to win the division. They're fourth in Super Bowl odds, knock on wood, for the first time ever in my life. The Packers are going to be right in the mix, though. I think they have a good team. I think they're pretty well coached. I don't think the Vikings are going to be particularly good, but who knows? They may surprise us. And the Bears, I expect to compete. I think they'll maybe win, I don't know, who knows, 7-8 games, maybe more. Who knows? We'll see. That depends on Caleb Williams. Brock Purdy, yellow. We'll see. I don't know. You know, the Niners obviously made it to the Super Bowl. If he had won last year and beaten the Chiefs, I think his cards would be a little more sought after right now. People will be talking about him again. I'd say yellow. Same thing with Tua. People don't know what to make of Tua at this point. Is he good? Is he not good? Is it just the weapons? Is it just the system? Can he actually throw the ball down the field? Can he play in cold weather? I think there's some hype around Tua going to the National. You know, I would say it's a little more green for me up to the regular season, and then a little more yellow to orange during the season. But that division's kind of wide open too, and that's the other wild card. Jared Goff just got the big contract. I love Jared Goff. I like the contract. I'm sold on Jared Goff at this point as our franchise quarterback for the Lions. But I don't think anybody's really talking about Jared Goff. I don't think anybody really cares about Jared Goff other than Detroit Lions fans. I don't think there's any hype there. Yellow light for the season. If Detroit comes out and plays really well and they're looking like real Super Bowl contenders, I actually could see Goff's card prices going up. I think Caleb Williams is still going to be hot on his Bowman cards going into the season. Red light for me on every rookie ever during the season. And what I mean by that is their cards that are coming out. The cards that are releasing, just stay away from them. Most of the time it takes these guys time. History shows that these rookies who start out right in their rookie season as quarterbacks don't historically fare very well. It's going to take him time to get up to the speed of the NFL, if he ever does. Red light on him. Red light on Jaden Daniels during the season. Red lights all around on Matthew Stafford. I love Stafford. I don't think anybody else cares about him at all. Red light on Cousins going into the National for me because this bizarre draft thing with Michael Penix, and nobody really knows what's going on there, although I think everybody expects Cousins to be the starter. They drafted Penix, so I don't put anything by the Falcons at this point. Yellow light during the season, if the Falcons are competing and Cousins is playing well and he's getting it to Bijan, he's getting it to London, and he's getting it to Pitts, and they're actually winning games and leading that division, then he might actually get some love. Justin Herbert for me is yellow. He doesn't have any weapons anymore. He lost Eckler to the Commanders. He lost all of his receivers. He's got Quentin Johnson, and that's about it. He's got a new coach who has a track record of success, but also likes to run the ball and kind of balance it out. But he's still Justin Herbert to me. So I'm yellow on both of those. Same thing with Rodgers. I have no idea what to expect with this guy anymore. I don't really think there's going to be a lot of hype around him going into the National, but it wouldn't surprise me if some people are looking for his cards. So I did yellow. We'll see. Trevor Lawrence has just been a complete bust up until this point. He had one decent season. Last year, was it like 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions? Yes, he threw for 4,000 yards. Trevor Lawrence needs to get it together. You got people comparing his stats to Justin Fields, and they're not much better. You got people comparing Trevor Lawrence's stats to Gardner Minshew and saying they should have just kept Minshew and traded that first overall pick and gotten a boatload in return. I don't know what's going on with T-Law. He needs to figure it out, and he needs to play well, or I see this $305 price coming down to $150 or less next year if he doesn't have a good season. No on Baker, and I would sell right now, hence the pink row. Just sell Baker. I don't see, nobody cares. He played well last year. Nobody cares. Sell his cards and move into the newer guys if you're going to do that, or collect something you love. If you love Baker Mayfield, keep him, but I don't see his prices going anywhere. Geno Smith, no. Deshaun Watson, definitely sell those right now. I just don't think anybody cares about Deshaun Watson. Will Levis, all the rest of these guys pretty much reds. I won't go through all of them. Bryce Young, I would 100% be selling right now. That guy looked so bad last year, and maybe it's not even his fault, but the team looks horrible. The team just looks completely abysmal. I would sell Bryce Young, get rid of those cards right now. you could put this money into a million other things that would be better. So that's quarterbacks. I will say one thing. Minshew could be interesting. I don't even know if he's got a chance to start the season or if O'Connell's their declared starter. I honestly didn't look. But I do think Minshew has a chance to take over during the season. And he actually isn't a bad quarterback. And the Raiders actually have some weapons. They've got Myers, who showed up last year in a big way, Devontae Adams. They drafted Brock Bowers. They've got Michael Mayer. They've got some pieces around him. Run game has questions, but he might see a little bit of love for $25. Honestly, I might go buy one today just because this guy's epic. He's, Napoleon Dynamite. Okay, let's go to running backs. And I'm going to kind of go this will be a little faster for running backs and receivers because I'm not going to talk through everybody. We've got Christian McCaffrey. Red light, I would say going to the National, only because I think his cards are already pretty inflated. He's significantly higher than any other active running back in terms of prices. I don't know if there's going to be a lot of buzz around him. I did see he was like plus 10,000 to win MVP next year. And yes, it's a quarterback every year, but plus 10,000, I feel like that's worth putting $10 on, just on the off chance that, no quarterbacks really shine again next year. I feel like if McCaffrey has another season next year like he did in 2023, and there aren't any clear-cut quarterbacks last year, like, in my opinion, Lamar wasn't a clear-cut choice, even though he won it kind of in a landslide, maybe people would go, you know what, give it to this running back. He's dominating. So in season, yellow, I think the Niners are going to be very competitive again. Red going into the National. Breece Hall, yellow. Who knows? Can he stay healthy? What's going to happen with the Jets? It's the Jets. Bijan, I think, has a little bit of buzz behind him, but his prices are somewhat inflated. Red light during the season, I just didn't see enough from him last year to warrant believing that he's going to, tear it up this next year, and I definitely won't be drafting him with the 3rd overall pick in fantasy. I can tell you that much. Jonathan Taylor, I would say red light right now. People don't know what to expect, but Jonathan Taylor does have a track record of being very, very good running back, and if they want to kind of take the pressure off of Anthony Richardson, maybe he has another breakout offensive season. Who knows? My guy Gibbs, he has some buzz. I'd say yellow. Barkley, yellow, new scene, a team that can actually win and block. Derrick Henry, I don't think, has a lot of life in his hype right now, but I am really interested because Baltimore runs the ball very well. They have a good offensive line. They've got Lamar. I'm really interested to see this run-pass option now with Henry and with Lamar and how that goes and how they utilize him. Will he actually play well, or is he kind of on the end of his career? Who knows? And then it's kind of just red the rest of the way on these running backs. If you have Nick Chubb cards right now, Nick Chubb, local guy to Atlanta. Love you, Nick Chubb. Very exciting player to watch. Thighs as big as tree trunks. But that injury was so unfortunate and so hard to see happen. You kind of get a pit in your stomach. He was, I think, led the league in rushing yards like since he was maybe a sophomore in the league up until last season. Just very consistent. Really hard to see that for a running back. The two guys I would watch during the season are Josh Jacobs and Travis Etienne Jr. Josh Jacobs, really good 2 years ago, not good last year. Now with the Packers, where they have a history of having pretty good running games. So who knows? $31. Again, that's a card I might take a chance on. Same thing with Travis Etienne Jr. All right, last but not least, or maybe least, wide receivers. CeeDee Lamb. Everybody loves CeeDee Lamb. It's funny because people have soured on Dak, but they're super high on CeeDee Lamb. $110 on his PSE 10 Optic Hollow, which is up. We're going to look at some of these cards. I'd say yellow in this case. Tyreek, red. I think his prices are already somewhat inflated. Yellow going into the season because it's Tyreek. Nobody can cover him. He's got the most receiving yards, which we'll see in a minute, since over the last 3 seasons, 2022. He's leading the league by a wide margin, and they like to use him down in South Beach. Jamar Chase is a very interesting one to me. If Burrow's back, he's another guy. He's a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL, in my opinion, when he's, healthy. And when Burrow is healthy, $87. His prices have come down. I'd keep an eye on him. Justin Jefferson, say what you want. Everybody would, a lot of people would say he's the number 1 receiver, one of the top 2, maybe with Hill in the league, Lamb. I'd say red, because of the quarterback situation. I don't know. Darnold, J.J. McCarthy, who's going to get him the ball? Is he going to be healthy? A lot of question marks around Minnesota's offense in general. Red for me. I would be selling Justin Jefferson to put money into other things. All right, Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's my guy. This guy is a dog. I absolutely love him in Detroit. I love the 4-year deal that they gave him. I'm glad they locked him up, but I would not be surprised to see statistically him take a step back a little bit. You never know. He's really good. He comes up big in the big moments, but they've got a lot of ways of spreading the ball around in Detroit. I think Jameson Williams is actually going to be on the come up. I don't even know that I have him on this list, but he's a guy that I might actually look into. They're talking high about him again. That could just be smoke and mirrors, who knows. But in general, I don't know that he's going to put up like gaudy stats like these other guys. Then again, his prices, $82, doesn't necessarily reflect huge price like Jefferson or CeeDee Lamb or Tyreek Hill. So you could look into him if you want. There might be a little bit of energy in going into the National. His price has already been going up, but I would say for the season, from a card perspective, I'm red light on St. Brown. Garrett Wilson, just a wild card in terms of how Aaron Rodgers plays this year. We could see a situation where Rodgers is good and he always has a favorite target, and Garrett Wilson goes for 1,600 yards and 12 touchdowns and has a really breakout season. Nacua, I'm red on. I just, at this point, he's Cooper Kupp 2.0. Nobody cares about Cooper Kupp now, so how long will people care about Puka Nacua? A.J. Brown, and by the way, the ones you see that are blank just simply don't have an Optic Hollow PSA 10 yet. A.J. Brown, red. I think Marvin Harrison Jr., like Caleb Williams, will have some hype going into the National, but again, stay away from rookies during the season. Mike Evans, if he comes out and has another really solid regular season year, he has put together an incredibly good career resume so far, and if he keeps doing that, I actually really like his cards for the long term. So I might be looking at those, and he might get a little bit of life in him during the season. And then Drake London, who knows? He's kind of been a bust so far. He hasn't done a whole lot statistically, and the Falcons haven't been good. Maybe Kirk Cousins decides he really likes throwing him the ball. Diggs with Stroud might get some attention. And right at the bottom, I went all the way down to 33, Marquise Hollywood Brown. I said yellow. He's already had some buzz behind his card prices. Look, if he goes out there and let's say like week 1, he goes out there and Mahomes finds him for a couple of deep balls and he has 6 catches, 145 yards, and a touchdown or 2, his card prices definitely could spike with a good game. So he's a guy I'd be looking at in that regard. All right, let's look at some charts. I'm going to go back to Josh Allen now. And last 365 days, you can see what a fall from grace it has been for his card prices. And they sort of stabilized now in this price range here, down about half of where they were last year. We saw a sale of $1,600 in June of 2023, most recently down to $828. So like I said, I think people are souring on Josh Allen. I saw this happen with Lamar Jackson a few years ago. He won his MVP. He was super high, and then he just sort of like faded into irrelevance for a little while. I still like Josh Allen as a quarterback long term. I think he's going to end up getting a Super Bowl at some point, whether it's with the Bills or somebody else, who knows. But he's a really good quarterback. I just don't know about this season. All right, let's look at some others. I'm going to start with Jalen Hurts. And you can see Jalen Hurts, he was hovering in the $300 to $350, $400 type range for his Optic Hollow PSA 10, now down to $175. I can tell you I had a PSA 9 of this last year that I had bought for like 160, something like that. And I recently sold it for like 50 bucks. So big fall for Jalen Hurts, his cards. So I would just be careful with his. Let's look at Lamar on the other hand. And Lamar's have been all over the place. He was up, he was down, he was super up, and he was down, then he's up, now he's down again. So it's like major roller coaster with Lamar. What that tells me is, hey, if you can find one in this price range, 400 bucks or less for one of these Optic Hollows, snatch it up. Whoever got this one for $385 on April 18 got a deal, in my opinion, and I would have bought that card at that price and said, okay, Lamar, let's see what you can do next season. Let's look at Patrick Mahomes. And not surprising here, some hype. He had some energy and some momentum going into the National last year, into the regular season. Comes down. He played so last year, during parts of the season. Then he wins the Super Bowl, and now he's kind of stabilized here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Mahomes stay here, and then to even see, again, a little bit of a dip during the regular season. So again, I would say yellow light in both cases. Joe Burrow, well, he was up here in the $600 range, came down to the $400 range. Now he's sort of middling, still back down to $400. But look at the price variation. Let's actually look at Burrow over the last 30 days and kind of look at the price variance. So if I look at Burrow here, low sale $374, high sale of $504. There's some like transaction to transaction arbitrage opportunities with somebody like that who's seeing regular volume on a card that's almost popped 1,600. Look for those on deals. Look on other marketplaces. Look on PWCC, Gold, and other places like that, and see if you can make a buck that way, even in the interim time. Okay, Jordan Love. I'm going to go back to 365 days, and look at this. People were crazy high on Jordan Love last year, and then he came out. I think he had 1 or 2 good games to start the season, and then he was terrible. And I mean terrible. He looked like, yikes, this guy is the next, whoever didn't work out, literally almost every quarterback for the last 5 years. So he kind of crashed down, and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, actually, I do remember how to throw a football. Hey, actually, I'm really pretty good, and I'm in the playoffs, and I'm in the NFC, not championship game, but the game before that against the Lions, semifinals, and he's kind of stabilized. I think there's a lot of energy behind him. I don't know how much more his cards will go up between now and the National. They might. I wouldn't be surprised to see this card start trending upward around $250 at that 216 right now. So keep an eye on Love during the season. Like I said, I'm yellow to red light, orange light on him. I got to see more. I got to see a track record before I believe. And then Justin Herbert, he's come down significantly. He's come down. He's like the poster child for people losing faith in Justin Herbert. He plays for the Chargers. They've never been able to do anything, at least not in a long, long time. He's bounced back a little bit. Maybe the announcement of Jim Harbaugh going to be his coach has given people new optimism, but he's dipped down again. Let's look at the last 30 days on Justin Herbert. He's down 30% on this card in the last 30 days. So maybe there's an opportunity here. $250 to scoop one of those. Really interesting. Pop 2,400, by the way, on Herbert still. Pop 1,400 on Jordan Love, and there's still a price difference there. These guys seem to be moving opposite directions. Maybe you're better to put your money in Love and watch that thing go up. Okay, let's shift to running backs. I'm going to look at one here, and that's Christian McCaffrey. And you can see there's already a lot of momentum behind his prices last year with this MVP situation. MVP contender, I would say. He didn't actually, finish MVP, but he was in the conversation, and his prices went up. Now they've started to dip down a little bit over the last, let's say 60 days. But what's really interesting to me is how close in price this last sale was. $181 for his Optic Holo, which is Pop 247. $145 for his base card, Pop 1200. So if I were looking at one of these two cards, a lot of times I actually say buy the Liquid PSA 10 base Prism base optics because they're really easy to move in terms of a very, kind of commodity style card. When you're looking to cash out on a player, there's price confidence. People go, okay, that one went for this price. I'll give you this much. But in this case, I would take the one up. I would take the Holo potentially because this price gap doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And we've seen it be much, much bigger than where it is currently. So if you could have gotten the card for that price, that would have been really good. Like look at this one, for example, 148 to 256 versus 145 to 181. So keep an eye on those things. You can use our intelligence reports for things like that. You could go over to intelligence reports and put those in. You can even come down here to the ratios right here and it'll show you 1.3. So you can track those sort of over time. All right, let's shift to wide receivers. And here's a quick stat. I mentioned this earlier. Which wide receivers have the most receiving yards since 2021? By the way, StatMuse is an awesome website. You can just ask natural language questions and it'll give you this information. Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, CeeDee Lamb, Diggs, A.J. Brown. No, that's Amon-Ra St. Brown. No, that is A.J. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown is here. Yeah, of course, St. Brown, duh, Teapot. Chase, Cup, and then kind of down the list. So these are some of the guys that we're looking at. All the rest of them, in my opinion, kind of second tier, and I wouldn't really pay much attention to their cards in general. And if you're holding them, I might sell them. So we got CeeDee Lamb at $110. Over the last year, he's up 67%. Jamar Chase down 34%. Jefferson down 15%. Tyreek Hill up 27%. Amon-Ra St. Brown up 61%. So you can see, again, some of these guys moving in very different direction. Let's look over the last 90 days. And actually, all of them up, which is really interesting, the offseason until now. So definitely, I talked about it a few months ago, your buying window tends to be right in March, like late February into March. That 4-week period is definitely the best buying window. I do think there's still some opportunities potentially with these guys. Let's close it out and go back to these quarterbacks who I think kind of heading into the national, into the regular season are worth consideration. Jordan Love, Tua, Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Brock Purdy maybe, Anthony Richardson, and C.J. Stroud. If I had to pick the 4 guys from this list to top that, I would say it's Love, Burrow, Richardson, Stroud. Those would be the 4 guys that I think are going to be the ones that have the most buzz and the most hype behind them. All these guys down over the last 90 days. Let's look at the last 30 days and see what the story is and if they've been going up. All of them still down. So different story here than the wide receivers, maybe an opportunity to buy them. I want to know from you, who do you like heading into the National and as a dark horse to pop off during the season next year? Let me know down in the comments. And of course, while you're down there, do me a huge favor. Like this video, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon, share it with a friend who likes football. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy investing, keep on collecting, and make sure to have fun.